All right, everybody, let's talk about the Mandalorian, specifically a really cool Reddit theory about the Mandalorian. It all begins with Darth Maul, the sidekick villain from Phantom Menace.
This is my apprentice, Darth Maul.
He created a rift in the Mandalorian people that could still exist decades later in The Mandalorian. And this fan theory posted by SwiftStart has major implications for the show that could link Darth Maul to The Mandalorian. And it could even come into play in Season 2. So, a little bit of backstory. If you haven't watched the Clone Wars animated series, there's some spoilers. During the Clone Wars, it was revealed that Darth Maul actually survived his halving. Like Lieutenant Dan, he's given
magic legs
and can walk again. Then he rampages across the galaxy looking for revenge on Kenobi, Sidious, the Jedi, the Sith, really everybody. He's rescued at one point by the Mandalorian extremist group Death Watch. Now this is the same group we see rescuing young Jin Djarin in the Mandalorian flashback. While the rest of Mandalore was trying to live peacefully, Death Watch wanted the society to return to its warrior ways of the past. This group, Death Watch, was led by Pre Vizsla, who was trying to retake Mandalore after their exile. And when Vizsla runs across Maul, they strike a bargain.
We can help you reclaim Mandalore
and punish Kenobi for his trespasses.
Then they go around the galaxy, consolidating various crime syndicates. Their plan is simple. Maul attacks Mandalore with his criminals so Death Watch can show up and defeat them. And then the Mandalorian people see that Pre Vizsla's a hero and they make him the new leader of Mandalore.
Your new Prime Minister, Pre Vizsla, leader of Death Watch, exiled governor of Concordia, true son of Mandalore.
But then Pre Vizsla turns on Darth Maul and tries to have him executed. Maul responds by challenging him to a duel.
I challenge you, one warrior to another, and only the strongest shall rule Mandalore.
See, like any space cult with death in their name, Death Watch believed that only the strong survive. So whoever wins this duel would be the rightful leader of Death Watch and Mandalore. Maul uses his lightsaber and Vizsla uses the dark saber. Now we explained this fully in another video, but basically the dark saber was used by a rogue Mandalorian Jedi hundreds of years earlier, and it's an important symbol of Mandalorian leadership.
They used the saber to unify the people and strike down those who would oppose them.
So, in the eyes of many, whoever wields the darksaber has the rights to rule Mandalore. Now, Maul not only defeats Vizsla and gives him the old Django, but he executes him with his own darksaber. So now, in the eyes of most of Death Watch, Darth Maul is the rightful leader of Mandalore. But Pre Vizsla's second-in-command, Bo-Katan, doesn't see it that way.
Never! No outsider will ever rule Mandalore.
Bo is a highborn Mandalorian. Her sister, Duchess Satine, ruled Mandalore until she was ousted by Pre Vizsla. And side note, Duchess Satine was also Obi-Wan Kenobi's one true love, and Darth Maul killed her, and all of this is really sad. Sorry, distractions. Bo leads a revolt against Darth Maul, splitting Death Watch into two warring factions, which, since the group rules Mandalore, probably plunged the entire planet into civil war. Darth Sidious eventually shows up and takes Maul prisoner. Now from here, exact details are sketchy, but we know that Bo won the war and briefly governed Mandalore under the Empire before she was replaced for not obeying orders. I mean, that's typical Bo-Katan, am I right?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
So here's where we get into the possible connection to the Mandalorian. Darth Maul still had a large faction of Mandalorians loyal to him. In the comic book Darth Maul, son of Dathomir, these followers break him out of a separatist prison. But notice his followers have altered their armor. Now they wear horned helmets and red breastplates. This was to emulate their master, the strongest warrior in the galaxy, Darth Maul. Now this is very similar to the appearance of the armorer in the Mandalorian. She also wears a red breastplate and has a helmet with horns. So it's very likely that this character was a follower of Darth Maul, and she still believes that he is the rightful leader. She also knows a lot about the Jedi and the Force.
The songs of eons past tell of battles between Mandalore the Great and an order of sorcerers called Jedi.
If she served Darth Maul, she would have seen his Force powers firsthand. And she's a stickler for rules.
The foundlings are the future. This is the way.
So if Maul won the right to rule Mandalore by force, she would have abided by this tradition. So what happened? Why doesn't Maul still rule Mandalore? So we can presume from the Clone Wars trailer that Darth Maul returns to Mandalore with his faction of Death Watch. They succeed, or nearly succeed, in taking the planet back from Bo-Katan. And we also know from the trailer that Ahsoka will duel Darth Maul. So maybe she wins, and afterwards Death Watch no longer recognizes him as their leader. And years later, we know that Darth Maul was killed by a geriatric hermit. We definitely know that Order 66 happens, and the New Galactic Empire conquers Mandalore, and the people scatter across the galaxy. This event is called the Great Purge, and it's mentioned several times in The Mandalorian.
This was gathered in the Great Purge.
These are the spoils of the Great Purge.
Has heard the songs of the siege of Mandalore.
This is the defining moment in Mandalorian history. It's their greatest shame. The Armorer would look back at this time and realize that the Mandalorians failed because they were not unified. So now the Mandalorian people must never be split again. Do you remember in episode 3 of The Mandalorian, Jyn almost fights another warrior over the Beskar? This other warrior was named Paz Vizsla, implying that he's in the same clan as Pre Vizsla, who was the leader of Death Watch. He even wears traditional Death Watch blue armor. The Armorer has no patience for this fight and immediately squashes this beef.
The Empire is no longer, and the Beskar has returned.
Then she unites them all with their common creed.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Now it's interesting that in all of Clone Wars, Rebels, the novels, we never heard this Mandalorian credo before. And maybe that's because this way of life was a response to the siege of Mandalore. And this could also explain why they never removed their helmets. Mandalore failed because it was divided against itself. It lacked a cohesive culture. So they forged a new, unified culture without factions where everyone shares the same face. A Mandalorian face. This is the way. Well guys, what do you think about the theory? Let me know in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.